22ndOct'14 grade, time management part 2, Janet Gray.
So are you actually achieving the things that are really important to you? Often we can be very busy, but it might not necessarily be the most effective use of our time. So how do we actually make the most of time to achieve the things that really matter? So the first step in this I've already outlined in part 1 of this time management series, which was about a year ago, so a few of you weren't there for that. But basically it was that first you have to work out what is actually important to you in all the things that you do, and then you need to set some clear and achievable goals. Then once you've done that, you then need to be able to prioritise your time to be able to achieve those goals. And there's a couple of, sometimes it's easier said than done, so sometimes there's a couple of concepts that can help you with this. And the first one is distinguishing between what is urgent and what is important. President Eisenhower once said that what is important is seldom urgent, and what is urgent is seldom important. And Stephen Covey of the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People recommends using a urgent and important matrix to help you sort of work out, damn, it's a sort of use of your time, and so which is what it is here. So you think about what things are urgent and what is important. So those would be things like crises, things that are most pressing, deadlines, meetings that you have to go to, those sorts of things. Then there's the not urgent but important, and they're the things which involve things like preparation, planning, relationship building, personal development. Down here in quadrant 3, there's urgent and not important. And those are things like interruptions, so it could be emails, phone calls, and some of the popular activities like Facebook. And then you've got the not urgent and not important, which would be maybe excessive use of TV, video games, basically time wasters. And what Covey recommends is we often spend a lot of time in these areas here, and he's recommending that we spend more time in this area here, which is the not urgent but important. So things like planning to be able to work out how you're going to achieve those goals, and things like the relationship building, and also working out ways of how to do things more effectively, because then you're spending less time putting out spot fires in this area here, and also being busy but not productive in these sorts of areas here. As an example, there was an engineer who worked for a large packaging firm. He was sick and tired of going to meetings that went on and on and on and didn't come to any useful conclusions, any useful actions. So he stopped and thought about it for a moment, and he ended up telling all his work colleagues that he was not going to attend any meetings whatsoever until they had a clear agenda, and he also changed the meeting time from being 1 hour down to 45 minutes. And by doing that, the meetings flowed better, they got the things done, they didn't fill out the time. So by spending that little bit of time in planning, he ended up saving a whole heap of time, but not only that, they actually got more useful meeting outcomes as well. So those sort of things can be quite important. But sometimes, when you've got a big deluge of stuff going on, sometimes thinking of whether it's urgent, important, all those sorts of things can be a little bit confusing. complex, particularly if you're still in this mode here. So another concept that can be quite handy is the big rock theory. You may have come across this before, but it goes something like you have a teacher with a class and asks the class, the jar full of rocks, is it full? And the kids go, yeah, duh, it's full of rocks. And so then the teacher gets some pebbles, puts them in, shakes them down in between the cracks, and then says, okay, so are they full now? Kids are a little bit more, maybe not. Because sure enough, the teacher then gets a handful of sand, puts it in the jar, fills it up, shakes it down, and now it's full. So the idea of that is that the big rocks are the important things that need to be done. The pebbles are the things you like to do, like to get done, and the sand is just all that other stuff you fill in the gaps with, so maybe TV, whatever. So the aim is to do the big rocks first, because if you spend your time doing the small stuff, you may not end up having time to do the most important things. When we first came across this big rock theory with my son Mike, so he has Asperger's, and it was a few years ago now, but he was having a bit of trouble getting his homework done, and so the psychologist told him about the big rock theory. But the first few weeks didn't really make any difference, but then one day he came home and he had a big pile of homework for the weekend. It was huge. So he then went to his whiteboard and he started writing up. So I said, so what's this? He said, well, the first things, they're all the things that are due on Monday. They're the big rocks. These things here are the things that are due later in the week. They're the pebbles. And down the bottom, he'd actually written stuff like drawing, computer games, and reading, I think. It's quite specific. And he said, and if I get any time, that's the sand, that's what I'd like to get done at the end. And by the end of the weekend, he had actually achieved all those things and got in a bit of time for a bit of computer games and drawing. So that's where the big rock theory can help, particularly when you are under the pump and you're trying to work out what is the most important things. So setting priorities can help you work out the best way to be able to spend your time to achieve your goals. Sometimes it's not that easy. We have a lot of competing things that are trying to compete for our time. But if you can stop and just think for a little bit and work out, is it urgent, important, both, or neither? Is it a big rock? Is it a pebble? Is it sand? Then maybe, just by spending that bit of time planning, you will actually be able to achieve the most important things.